Hi, my name's Anne Carter and I'm the Project Officer for the Freshwater Habitats Trust. I'm going to share the results for our first round of clean water testing as part of our Citizen Science Testing the Water project, which is part of the Brecks Fen Edge and Rivers Landscape Partnership scheme. So just a little bit first about the Freshwater Habitats Trust. So we started life as Pond Action back in the late 1980s, an organisation that subsequently became Pond Conservation, with Jeremy Biggs and Penny Williams at the helm. But in 2013, we actually relaunched the charity as the Freshwater Habitats Trust to spearhead the fight against biodiversity loss in all of Britain's freshwaters. So not just for ponds, but for all small water bodies, including streams, rivers and ditches. The Trust actually places particular emphasis on creating areas of clean water, something that has now almost vanished from large parts of the landscape and which is vital for our wildlife. So the Brecks Fen Edge and Rivers Landscape Partnership, with funding from the Heritage Fund, this landscape partnership scheme supports more than 60 local, regional and national groups to conserve and celebrate the unique heritage of the Norfolk and Suffolk Brecks. The scheme focuses on the Brecks Fen Edge and River landscape, located on the borders of Norfolk, Suffolk and Cambridgeshire, and includes the key Fen Edge area and river corridors. These areas are often overlooked in a landscape that is actually quite famous for being sandy and dry, yet they are the driving force behind the area's unique biodiversity. So on the western edge of the Brecks, the dry landscape changes dramatically into fenland, where ditch networks, despite being intensively farmed and increasingly disconnected, still have isolated freshwater hotspots supporting endangered species. So over a 5-year delivery period between 2020 and 2024, working with partners and communities, the partnership aims to deliver a minimum of 24 projects. We are leading on one of these projects, Testing the Waters, which is a citizen science project to raise awareness of habitat loss, pollution and rare species, involving people in practical activities to get new information about the project area through our surveys. And one element of this project is the sampling of ponds, streams, ditches and rivers using rapid water quality test kits that make visible pollution that is otherwise invisible and largely unknown. This will help to achieve 3 broad aims. So to map the extent of clean, unpolluted water, providing a baseline for long-term monitoring, and to increase people's engagement with and understanding of the exceptional freshwater heritage of the Brecks area. And finally, to inform the delivery of river restoration activities and guide future landscape conservation activities in the scheme area. So nutrient pollution, as I've said previously, is invisible, so often doesn't seem real to people. So the quick kits that we use in this project to test for the presence of phosphate and nitrate make it possible for people to easily see pollution for the first time and gives us the opportunity to get data from sites which would otherwise not be monitored. So the monitoring network requires a selection of sites which fulfil a range of statistical requirements. They must be representative of the area and not biased towards places most likely to contain clean water. So our volunteer monitoring network was created from a list of randomly selected 1 kilometre grid squares containing water bodies such as ponds, rivers, streams and ditches. So for 2021, we had approximately 350 1 kilometre grid squares containing around 620 different water bodies. So it was an awful lot of water sampling that was required. So just looking at the way we allocated the squares, We issued each volunteer with enough clean water kits to sample 10 water bodies, spread over several 1 kilometre grid squares in the same area. We also sent out a spreadsheet listing all the volunteer grid squares in their batches, which lists the water body types we were asking volunteers to sample. So in this example here, the first one, West Acre Swaffham, there were 9 water bodies in that batch, and you can see the grid squares. So the TF7815, for example, just had a river on it, and the TF7914 had a pond and a lake to sample. So we were asking volunteers to sample just one of each of the water body types in the square. So in this example, we had a pond. There are actually 2 or 3 ponds on that square, but we're just asking to sample one. A lake, a ditch and a river. So for this example, 4 kits would be used. So now I'd like to fill you in with the results so far. So over a 3-month period, which is February, March and April 2021, we ran 3 online training sessions to train the volunteers up to carry out the testing. And in total, 66 people from the Brecks area attended the training sessions and signed up to carry out clean water testing. So looking at the results, in total 483 water samples were collected over a 4-month period. So this is a map showing where all the testing took place. So you can see the blue dots on the map indicate the sites where clean water was found. The red dots are the water bodies with polluted water, and the orange dots are water bodies with just some nutrient pollution. And the pie chart shows that the results so far, 40% of the water bodies tested had clean, unpolluted water, with 60% having polluted or some pollution in their water. So just as a recap, the kits we used to test for nitrate and phosphate changed colour to indicate the level of nutrients in each sample. So the darker the colour, the more pollution in the sample tested. So depending on the intensity of the colour in the tubes at the end of the test period, so that's 3 minutes for nitrate and 5 minutes for phosphate, the sample can be classified into 3 categories. So we see here the blue section is no evidence of nitrate or phosphate pollution. The green section has some nitrate or phosphate, or the last 2, the brown and the red, has very high levels of phosphate of pollution. So going back to the results, so what water bodies were actually sampled? This chart shows a split of water bodies that we sampled as part of this project. So you can see that 33% of the water bodies sampled were ponds, and for example 24 were ditches. The other water bodies, which was just 1% category, includes springs, and there were only actually 2 sampled, and 1 well, and a few areas of woodland carr and flooded arable land, so quite a small proportion of water bodies. So where was the clean water? As you can see from the pie chart, 45% of the ponds sampled came out as clean, as did 33% of the ditches, and I'll come back to this later. The 2 bar charts compare the percentage of nutrient pollution in standing and running water. So the results here indicate that the majority of the clean water is found in standing water, so ponds and lakes, at 56%, with only 28% of clean running water in the samples that were taken. The second bar chart on the right shows a split of clean water across all the water bodies tested. You can see here that the majority of the clean water found in running water is in the ditches, with the rivers, cut-off channels and streams all showing high levels of pollution. So, although nutrient pollution was found in all the freshwater habitat types tested, standing water bodies, including ponds, lakes and fens, were overall the cleanest freshwater habitats found in the Brecks. Like most of lowland Britain, rivers and some ditches and streams in the area were found to be polluted by nutrients. So rivers and streams drain large areas of land and are exposed to multiple sources of pollution from both urban and agricultural areas, whereas ponds and lakes are also affected by the surrounding land use, but they naturally drain smaller areas of land. If the surrounding habitat is free from nutrient pollution, the ponds and lakes are likely to have clean water. And clean water is vital for freshwater biodiversity, so these unpolluted sites can support rich and valuable wildlife communities. So let's have a quick look a closer look at areas where clean water was found in this study. So in the Brecks, the cleanest pockets of water were found in the Stanford training area, that's Stanta, which is here, and around Thompson Common, both of which contain a mosaic of semi-natural habitats, including areas of breckland, grassland and heath, as well as standing water, wetlands and many springs and streams, which are largely unaffected by drainage, pollution and water abstraction. So many of the clean water ditches were also found in this area, and small pockets of clean water were also found in areas of semi-natural habitat, including Thetford Forest and smaller woodlands and nature reserves away from agricultural landscape. So delving a bit deeper, let's have a look at the Stanford training area. As you can see here, there is a majority of water bodies tested were split between ponds, ditches and streams. And looking at the bar chart on the right, there was actually only one spring sampled which came out clean and one fen area which came out polluted. So taking these out of the equation, the majority of the clean water was found in standing water, ponds and lakes and running water, ditches and streams. And not surprisingly, the rivers sampled in this area came out worst in the pollution stakes. As I said previously, the reason why the ditches and streams came out reasonably clean is probably down to the surrounding land use. And looking at Thompson Common, the majority of water bodies tested here, like the Stanta site, are split between ponds, ditches and streams. No rivers were actually sampled in this area. But looking at the bar chart on the right, there was only one lake sampled, which came out clean, and one fen area, which again came out polluted. So again, taking these out of the equation, the majority of the clean water was found in ponds, followed by ditches and streams. So just a little bit of background about Thompson Common. The site comprises a mosaic of habitats, including various open water and fen communities, a bit of scrub, woodland and grasslands, and an artificial lake, which, as we've seen, came out clean. So lying to the north of the Brecklands, its position on a tributary of the River Wisley has lent the site more of a damp lowland grassland character than the typical dry Brecks heath. The diversity of the grassland communities is enhanced by the presence of damp and water-filled depressions known as pingos, formed at the end of the last glaciation, where various open water and fen communities have developed. Thompson Common takes in the highest density of ground ice depressions of any of the remaining Breckland pingo systems. So a copy of our report from October 2021 can be found on our website. And finally, I'd like to finish off with sharing a few images sent in by some of our brilliant volunteers who helped us collect this data over the spring of 2021. Thank you very much for listening.